Good evening from a glamorous Ashton Gate press room.
We are not Nigel Pearson or David Wagner, but this is where they will be sitting after the game. And why are we here, Sam? Why don't you tell the good people of wherever they're watching?
Absolute nightmare. Anyone that kept up with our Southampton trip will know things don't always go to plan for these long away trips. Thankfully, we're not quite as late as we were for that one, but we were held up for about 45 minutes in Bristol, queuing. So currently Connor Southwell is making his way from the car park to Ashton Gate, but we had to hop out of the car while it was sat in a traffic jam to come early, which is why I'm replacing him. Hopefully I can do a decent job, but David Wagner certainly made more changes than we have. 9 for the Canaries Carabao Cup trip to Bristol City. What do you make of that news, Paddy? Not really too much of a surprise to see so many changes.
No, Sam. I have just checked with the people who know about these things because I'd imagine that Twitter is going into a bit of a meltdown with the absence of a certain Scottish midfield maestro, Kenny McLean. I have it hot off the press, rested, as is Gibson, as is Gunn. So you conspiracy theorists who think he's somewhere between here and what's the road to Leeds, M62, is it A1? No, he is the captain, fantastic. Kenny McLean rested for tonight's game, but we will obviously put that to David Wagner after the game. It's been quite a frenetic 24, 48 hours, hasn't it? What with Casey Palmer and Jan Kutcher?
Yeah, Kutcher.
Butchered the pronunciation there, but so we'll start right there. No Kenny McLean, but purely a decision by David to, given it's a very congested week, 3 away games on the bounce. He wasn't ever present until tonight. Actually, I put some quotes up earlier today on the Pinkin, which was David Wagner essentially eulogising about his impact alongside Sarah. Sarah starts tonight, one of only 2 starters retained from the Huddersfield game, him and the new captain for the night, Shane Duffy. So 8 changes for the starting lineup for the QPR round, previous round, 9 tonight. And those 3 rested. But obviously the bench does contain the likes of Stacey Barnes, Johnny Rowe, Adam Forshaw's on there, Dimi Yanulis. Of course, no Josh Sargent. We didn't expect him to feature tonight. What we will expect when David Wagner sat in this very chair after the game is an update for how long the American is going to be out with what is, I'm led to believe, ankle ligament damage. There was reports yesterday that he had to go and see a specialist in London. Reports, I hasten to add, of torn ligaments, but we'll get that all confirmed after the game. We won't speculate too much, but clearly not involved tonight, and I don't think we did expect him, did we, Sam?
No, I'm not surprised to see Adam Eder up front, and that could be a problem for Norwich going into the future. Are you surprised at all that we see him, I don't want to use the word risked, but obviously he's been started when we'd expect him to start in Saturday's game against Rotherham United. Is there any worry for you there that history repeats itself from Saturday and Norwich are left with only 1 striker? I think probably for me it's a case of necessity. They obviously would rather use 2 out-and-out strikers, but Marcelino Nunez is in that advanced sort of number 10 role that he featured in against QPR. We know Wagner likes to use 2 up there, so it already is a little bit of a system change. How different will Norwich look with Adam Eder up there?
Well, I mean, I look at it and I see Gibbs and I see Nunez and I see Eder, and that trio, that was what we saw at QPR, wasn't it? So in terms of structurally, I'd expect it pretty similar, really. I think it feels like it should be, looking at that. We haven't had it confirmed. More of maybe 2 holders in Gibbs and Zara. You've got your 3, Poeta, Nunez in the middle and Springett. Yeah. And then obviously Adam leading the line. So in that regard, that will feel a little bit different from when it's been Barnes and Sargent. I think you, like me, were of the same opinion, really. I don't think Gibbs, Nunez or Adam Eder on that game at QPR, really advanced their claims to be certainly dislodging a Sargent and a Barnes. That was prior to Sargent's injury, of course. But tonight is another opportunity. And Adam, to be fair, when he got the thick end of, what was it, about 70-odd minutes, I think, at the weekend, a goal and an assist, couldn't have done much more, really, in terms of impact. And what we will know, because what seems to accompany him now is this thing about self-belief and confidence, maybe lack of. He talks about it himself. He talked about it again after the game on Saturday. He shouldn't lack for any of that after what he did in that cameo, that extended cameo. So if I look at the 11 and what I'm looking to take out of it moving forward, over and above, hopefully cup progress, but in terms of the important league stuff ahead, particularly if Josh Sargent is unavailable for any length of time, it is Adam Eder. Can he step forward again with the responsibility as the main man in this lineup at the top end of the pitch, and really show us that, yeah, okay, pending what David has to say about Josh Sargent after the game, there is a player within the building already who can maybe step up and fill the void a little bit.
And at the other end of the pitch, George Long makes his Norwich City debut. We've seen plenty from Millwall fans about what the pitfalls in his game might be, but this is a real opportunity for him to now try and stake his claim in the sort of goalkeeper race. I think he's definitely, obviously, the clear number 2 at the moment, but he, like many of the players that are stepping into the 11, with how good Norwich have been playing and how good Angus Gunn has been playing, really need to use this opportunity, doesn't he?
He certainly does, yeah. I mean, I think we all know that there's certain areas of this team where you would look at it and you think, well, there's an outstanding candidate to have the shirt in the league action, and certainly at the back end of the pitch. And he underlined it again on Saturday, didn't he? In a game where Norwich, obviously, the scoreline tells you they were dominant, but they didn't have it all their own way in terms of the passages of that game. And when he was called upon, he made 2 or 3 very good stops. That shows you his shot stopping ability, but also his concentration levels. That for periods of the game, it was a watching brief, but when required, he was able to step up. And since then, he's obviously retained his place in the Scotland squad. You'd expect him to start those upcoming games. He is Norwich's undisputed number 1, and that's, of course, as we know, why Tim Krul departed ultimately. Whatever it was from Tim's side about wanting to play football, from Norwich's side, David Wagner had made it quite clear to both of those Angus Gunn was his number 1. So if you're George Long, you're coming in tonight, and of course you want to show what you're about, and that you can put some pressure on Angus. But ultimately, I think his role at the minute is to come in and almost maybe be a conduit between Angus and those younger keepers, and be a good, because he is an experienced player, and be a good, I don't want to say tourist because that's unfair to him, but in and around the group and the changing room, and as a mentor maybe, because obviously Michael McGovern maybe fulfilled that role before he departed in the summer. But those younger keepers, that he can be a real individual who they can lean on as well. But I think we all expect, barring any unforeseen injury, it's Angus Gunn who will be Norwich's number 1 moving forward, certainly in the league games. But it would be nice for him to come in and play his part in hopefully passage into the 3rd round tonight.
And what do you think David Wagner's thinking will be regarding that sort of potential passage into the 3rd round? I don't think many Norwich fans are hoping for a deep run and thinking that Norwich are maybe going to be in contention. But given how they've started the season, for momentum, do you think it's important that Norwich carry that on after the good start they've had?
Yes and no. I mean, you'd like to roll it on tonight and then head to Rotherham unbeaten again. That'd be 5 league and cup games.
Six
it would, tonight. So, and particularly if you do it where you brought 9 of your fringe players into the mix in terms of starting spots, and they've delivered. But if it went the other way and it wasn't to be, and Norwich exit the competition tonight, I think we'd all agree that of the next 2 or 3 games, the next 2 or 3 days, the priority clearly is going to Rotherham, getting another win there, and then going into the international break, 13 points from 15. So, we always say if you had a choice, I think it'd be obvious. Most of us would plump for 3 points on Saturday rather than progress in a cup tonight. But this is the next game. David himself talked when me and you spoke to him after the game at Huddersfield, that irrespective of the competition, it is about that factor. It is about momentum and building. They had a clean sheet at the weekend. I'm sure they'd want to add to that again. They've scored 4 goals in each of the last 2 away games in the league. You'd love to add a few more goals as well, particularly with the likes of Eder, Nunes, Gibbs, Springett, Poeta in a more advanced position. But no, I don't think if it was to be an exit in the League Cup tonight, that's really going to have any detrimental impact, because as we can see from this lineup, 2 of these starters have been retained in the lineup, and when we get to Rotherham at the weekend, I'll be pretty sure there'd be a lot of changes to this starting 11. So, in the bigger picture, not really hugely relevant what happens tonight, but for the fringe players, certainly, you're definitely looking to nudge David Wagner in the direction of don't forget about me.
And for you personally, I know I'm buzzing at the prospect of a
midweek all over
game.
your face, yeah.
after a Plymouth game at the weekend, I'm buzzing for.
I'm just buzzing we got in the ground. If I'm honest, after that.
But we'll have to get back to Mr. Southwell pretty soon. But before that, I know you like to put yourself through the jeopardy of a score prediction. So.
Getting it wrong yet again, otherwise known as. Yeah, I mean, you said what 1-1 and they lose on pens, didn't you? In the car,
Yeah.
not to take your
Yeah,
thunder away.
thanks for doing that for me.
No. Well, you might want to change it.
That's probably fine.
But I could see it, but I could equally see them maybe a 1-0 defeat, maybe a late defeat. And would I cry any tears at that outcome? I've got to be honest, I wouldn't. No, because certainly I've had my fill of having to run to football stadiums, particularly in the West Country. Here is Mr. Southwell. Come on, the camera, my man, and just tell us all about your nightmare and where you've dumped our pool car. I'm a bit worried you put it in a hedge. Sure. Let me jump out. You sit in. Go on.
Hello all. How are we?
We're all good.
We're pretty relaxed.
What's going on?
To you, I'd imagine.
What's going on?
I see you've got your priorities right here, and you've got a cup of tea.
I've already had some food as well.
Oh, wow. Me and Paddy have been here working hard.
Well, I figured you'd have it in hand, so that's all right. What we looking at? Long, Fisher, Duffy, Umbo. That's quite a few changes.
9, mate. Yeah, 9. 2 retained.
So they made 8 in the last round. So I looked that up.
Yeah. We're at the prediction stage, Connor.
Oh, are we? Sorry, you've done it.
We don't need to reprise what we've talked about.
Sorry, no, that's fine. I haven't even thought about it, to be honest, in the last hour.
Come on, mate.
David Wagner doesn't have a very good record here. His teams, I think, have failed to score a goal here in 4 attempts. I'm sure you lads have covered that as well. So I am going to go for 0-0 defeat on penalties.
Well, we've all gone for defeat. We're all feeling nice and positive.
To be honest, we're probably influenced by the last hour.
I was going to say, I think sitting for an hour in traffic, wondering whether we're getting here in time for kickoff, probably hasn't helped. But yeah, let's hope, for the sake of a lovely trip post Plymouth, that Norwich managed to pull out the bag in spite of our predictions. Keep it locked across the rest of our Pink 'Un channels, because we will somehow have all the usual coverage and all the stuff. Pinkun.com, Pink 'Un Plus, pinkun.com/subscribe, I believe is the right place to go if you want to have $1.99 for the first 2 months and then $2.99 thereafter, which I'm pretty right in saying is fantastic value, right?
Yep. Yeah,
there you go. Right, so we'll see you very soon. Thank you for joining us, despite the fact it was slightly cobbled together, and we'll see you again very soon.